So most hosts, and especially if you're a mom hosting any Christmas festivities, you want to have as much done, or at least I do, beforehand so that I'm not scurrying around the kitchen and I can actually enjoy the holiday and all of the festivities with everyone instead of being tied to the kitchen. So the great thing, one of our traditions is we like to watch Christmas movies, and we have very specific Christmas movies that we're only allowed to watch certain nights leading up to Christmas. And then Christmas morning, we have a big get together with my parents and my younger siblings and their kids. So we like to have lots of fun drinks to have on hand, but I don't necessarily want to be making them all. But because this is a from scratch kitchen, I'm going to be making up ahead of time. So this is how I like to make up ahead of time my homemade chai tea concentrate. So it's a really simple recipe, and not only that, it makes the house smell like $1,000,000. So to start with, we're going to be adding 3 cinnamon sticks to our little pot here. And then I have got some whole black peppercorns. I've got 3 cardamom pods. I have got some fennel seed. And then I have got, this is actually frozen ginger, but it's fine because we're going to be bringing this to a simmer. So 1 to 2 inches of ginger we're going to put in here. And then we're going to top this off with about 3 cups of water. Now for the printable recipe with exact measurements and all of this, and you can definitely scale this up so you can double or even triple this depending on how many people you're going to be having over and wanting to serve, or you just want to have it in the fridge for at least a week or 2. That's an option too. But I am going to put the wood stove to good use as we begin this recipe. So one of the advantages to having the wood stove heating the house is I can also just use it to cook on. So we're going to bring this up to a simmer, and then we're going to let it simmer for 20 minutes. I'm not going to put the lid on quite yet, just because I need to see when it actually hits a simmer. And then I'll put the lid on there to just trap all of the essential oils and the volatiles and stuff that are on the spices. So I'm not really looking to have this liquid be reduced. I'm just wanting to infuse it with all of these delicious spices, both for flavor and actually for digestion. So a lot of those holiday meals can be a little bit rich. And so it's great with chai concentrate or chai tea to have those to help with the digestion, as well as oftentimes, especially in the evening, we come in from doing all the evening chores and we're really cold. And a lot of these spices, especially like the cinnamon and the ginger, they're very warming. And so they can help with circulation and kind of help warm you up on those really cold, chilly nights. So we're gonna let this get up to temp. So we just reached a simmer. We just have some little tiny bubbles happening. And I'm gonna put the lid on, because of course once you put the lid on, it's gonna make it simmer even more. So I will come back and check on this in just a little bit. I don't want it to be at a really hard boil, just a simmer. And you always wanna make sure, especially when you're cooking on a wood stove, right? Because it's not like the heat is just concentrated to a burner like on a regular stovetop. Don't ever touch the handle without having a hot pad like you would if it was on a regular burner. So we'll come back and check this in a few minutes. So you definitely want to check it, as I said, hot pad. And we have now reached full on boil. So that's more than a simmer. I don't want that at a hard boil. So when you're cooking on a wood stove, I'm gonna shut down, actually push in my damper there. So that's gonna cut off some of the oxygen, and that's gonna bring that down. And then I'm going to move it up here. This is a cooler area on the stove. And you can see I've already moved it. And just by moving it from this spot, which is the hottest, to back here up and on the side, it's already dropped down. Now once I put the lid on, this will go right back to a simmer, but it won't have it at that hard boil anymore. Okay guys, so this has been simmering for 20 minutes, so it's time to strain this, and then we actually need to steep our tea. So I just have a fine wire mesh strainer here, and I'm gonna put it right into my little Pyrex container. And it smells so Christmassy right now, just from this part. so now we're gonna take our tea strainer here, and I've already measured out my black tea, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that there. And I'm just gonna set that, careful, this is hot. I'm gonna dunk it just a few times, get those tea leaves rehydrated. And then set that down in there. And then I'm gonna cover this, it's not too hot from the stove. Again, kind of same principle, we wanna trap all the volatile oils from the tea and let that steep in there. And I'm gonna let that go. With black tea, if you let it steep too long, it kind of gets that bitter taste. So I like to let mine go about 8 to 10 minutes. Okay guys, so it has been about 10 minutes. So you can see that has gotten quite a bit darker. Still a little bit hot, so just be a little bit careful when you're removing this. And I always like to do just a couple little extra dunks there. Let that strain. All right, now while this is still hot, so you can see this is still plenty warm, if you're gonna add sweetener, I like to add either a little bit of honey, or you can also do maple syrup. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this honey though, and it just is kind of to taste, so you can do a few teaspoons, you can do more, so I just usually kind of eyeball. This is gonna be about 1 large tablespoon. And just kind of get that out. And so you just want it to still be warm, obviously, so that the honey, and my honey is just a little bit starting to crystallize. So you want it to just be warm enough that this is gonna dissolve and mix in. And so then I just like to pour mine into a mason jar. And there we go, just about 3 cups worth. And then pop that in the fridge, and it'll stay in the fridge. We actually go through it pretty quickly. I think the longest I've had mine in the fridge is probably about 10 days, and we usually go through it even faster than that. So it'll stay in the fridge for at least a week, if not longer. So I have to show you my favorite drink to make from chai tea. So you can totally use this concentrate and just mix it with water, which in that printable recipe over on the blog, I've got all the different ways, but I gotta tell you, my favorite way to have chai is a dirty chai. And that means we are putting some espresso in this bad boy. Many of you guys, after you watched the best and worst gifts, where I actually showed my espresso machine and my favorite coffee, asked if I would show you how I like to make coffee. And I do lots of different coffee drinks. This is one of my favorite holiday ones, so I love to have this in Christmas morning, actually, when we have my parents and my siblings over. So I'm gonna just do a single shot because I'm gonna be putting in some of the chai tea concentrate as well as some cream. So you can see kind of how quickly this grinds it up. So there we go. And then the key, one of the keys to getting a good shot of espresso, we want crema. And crema is when it has foam just from the shot of espresso before we've added anything else. And one of the keys is, one, having your grind, but 2 is we need to apply pressure. Now this machine has 9 bars of pressure. And so I'm gonna be pressing down, kind of guesstimating, and doing about 25 to 30 pounds of pressure of when I'm pressing this together. Do you see that? Look at how foamy that is. That, my friends, is a good shot of espresso. Okay, now we gotta add the rest of our goodies here. So I like to add a little bit of honey to my chai tea concentrate. So this is already slightly sweetened. But the honey does tend to settle to the bottom just a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir this up. There we go. And then I'm doing about 1/3 of chai tea concentrate and 1/3 of my espresso shot, and just leaving a little bit of room for cream. Now, you can just have it as is, but if I'm gonna be making it decadent, and hello, Christmas morning, we're gonna do decadent, right? You can't go wrong with cream. Now, if you don't want it to be quite that rich, you can use regular milk. You can use almond milk, is also really good. You can use whatever type of milk you want, but let's go for a little bit of cream, shall we? And then you can actually see how this steams. It has a great steaming wand that can create even more foam for us. Okay, so we're just gonna put the wand down inside the cream in our pitcher and turn it to the steam function. It'll take it just a minute to build up that pressure. You always want to wipe that wand clean right afterwards because it's no fun trying to scrub off the dairy later. And then you always want to just do a quick purge. Now, we've already got quite a bit of foam from our shot, and look at that. You want to just keep the wand. Are you done? You want to keep the wand when you're making steam just right at just below the surface of the cream, and you just keep pulling it down, and that's how you get a lot of foam on the top. It works with cream and or milk. Look at all of that lovely, lovely foam. And for just a little bit more fun, I like to just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon right on the top with a dash of nutmeg. Nutmeg is one of my favorite spices. Cheers. So as I said, some of our favorite traditions coming up to Christmas is we have our specific movies. And I have to tell you a really funny story. So it doesn't matter if these are on TV anytime before Christmas. You're not supposed to watch them. It's like a family cardinal rule until we're together as a family, and we do it the 23rd and then the 24th. And that is, you're not supposed to watch The Grinch, and it's the Jim Carrey version, which we quote pretty much all year long within our family. And then on Christmas Eve, we watch The Polar Express, which I also love the hot chocolate part and mortified my daughter at our annual Christmas ornament exchange at our church by singing the hot chocolate song. My favorite line, I'll just go ahead and mortify myself, is hot, 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 hot chocolate. So my son went over to a friend's house and called to ask if he could stay late. Now, he's lucky this was still in November because he called to ask me if he could stay late and finish a movie. And I'm like, well, is it gonna be over soon? Because we lock all of the doors at night, and I'm like, I can't lock up until you get home, and I don't wanna stay up super late. And he's like, yeah, it's got, a little bit of time left. I'm like, oh, okay, what movie are you watching? There's this pause. He's like, The Grinch? And I'm like, you are watching The Grinch now? He's like, Mom, I didn't pick it. So I'm like, you're lucky it's not December yet. I'm like, that's fine, you can stay, but you still are watching it with us on our family Christmas movie night. So, it doesn't seem like a really big tradition, but those are definitely some of our traditions. And of course, on the Polar Express night, we have homemade hot chocolate, but I like to have the homemade chai tea concentrate. And actually, so I think chocolate just makes almost everything better. So when we're watching it in the evening, instead of doing a dirty chai with coffee, because then I won't be able to sleep that night, I like to do a hot cocoa chai. So I like to do all different kinds of hot chocolate. So when we're watching The Grinch, I will do a chai tea with chocolate, make it basically a chai mocha, and then hot chocolate with the Polar Express, and then Christmas morning when we have everybody down, a dirty chai. It's definitely a smart way to go. And one of our other things to have, especially in the evening with the chai tea and the hot cocoa, is the old-fashioned molasses sugar cookie. So you can go and snag that recipe and watch that video and make them yourself. Merry Christmas.